The top of the morning to you all. My name is Fred Lalwor. I've been involved with Shiv on this journey for probably 10 years at least, if not more. That just gives you a little bit of background to me, and we won't dwell on me because it's just I'm going to be the MC today. So what we're going to be talking about today, the title of this session is Raise Your Consciousness to See the Universal God in the relative God of your communities. So I'm going to go through a brief introduction, of which I'll also pull on Shiv a little bit about what Shen is, and also specifically the whole idea behind this is Shiv is drafting a proposal to go to world religions as to how we start to get education, spiritual education, if you like, into mainstream. That said and done is that, so we'll be going through, I'll just give a very quick overview of what that content is, and also I'll pull on Shiv as to how Shen started. Jeff Gian, who's with us today and is going to be speaking, gave us access to a lovely video called The Great Musicalization, which I will play after we've done kind of the introduction portion of it. And it's very timely and topical for specifically what we've got today. So I'll play that on YouTube. After we've gone through the introduction, Shiv is going to do a deep breathing exercise for about 10 minutes. And again, part of all of this, raising our consciousness is the breath, and he will take us through that. And then after we've done the deep breathing, Shiv will do a presentation, Raise Your Consciousness about the breath. And then Jeff is going to take us, Jeff Gion's with us today, and we'll do a more formal introduction a little later on. But Jeff is going to show us, take us through a contemplative practice. And then really this is about you. So you can see that we've left time for us to go around, and what I'm going to try and get around to everybody just to make a comment, or give us some feedback, not to pontificate and not to do a presentation, by the way, but definitely to be involved, and specifically as you are listening to this, to make notes, and specifically if you've got any questions for anybody. And then we'll close it with the next session. So that said and done is, where did Shen start? And Shen started by Shiv, and specifically it was Shiv's motivation.
Oh, sorry. Fred, unmute yourself. I muted you, Fred.
You there? Sorry. Did we miss any of that, Shiv, or you just muted me?
It happens sometimes.
No worries. So where did I leave off? You saw, anyhow. This is about how Shen started, and Shen started with Shiv Tarwal is the architect and the designer, and specifically the motivator. But his motivation for Shen came from his actual experience of looking at, first of all, the displacement of 10 million people and the death of over 1 million people, all in the name of religions with the same Abrahamic base. How did we get there? So Shiv, I'm just going to ask you before I take you through kind of what our strategy is, what Shen's about, and specifically the strategy relative to this proposal, because that's what we need. Shiv, can you give us a couple of minutes just to tell what it was like, and specifically why, and why did you start Shen?
Thank you, Fred. In 1947, when India was divided, I used to live just left off the line there, just about where Fred's arrow is. And at the time of partition, and soon after the partition, there was a lot of bloodshed, and there was a lot of rape, a lot of cruelty of humanity against humanity in the name of our God and our religion. If you are of a different religion, you were easy game. And there was a lot of looting, a lot of rioting, and a lot of cruelty. And that affected me. It touched me to the core. And I said, I'm going to do something about it. This should not happen anywhere. And that is where the idea got planted in my mind. And I kind of struggled with that idea all my life. And when I was about 40 years of age, I met a guru traveling from India. His name was Swami Vishwatma Bharati. And what I'm doing is his advice. I put this question to him. I said, I don't like religion and I don't like God. And my idea of a God at that time was some old guy sitting up in heaven and trying to run the world the way he wants to. And so I stayed away from religion because of that experience. And this guru sat me down. He's my mentor. I learned a lot from him. And he sat me down. He said, Shiv, you want to do something in that area? There's a lot you can do. I said, what is it that I can do? I said, you promote spiritual education. You research, you develop, and you promote spiritual education. Spiritual wisdom of all religions is one. And religions may be many, but their core wisdom is one. And you research and you develop education, you promote it. And once light of spirituality dawns, the darkness, the division, is dispelled automatically. So that advice appealed to me. And I have been an academic all my life, although different subject. So I switched my subject at retirement. I retired early to pursue it full time to work for harmony in the world. So that's where Shen started. I think the first meeting of Shen was in 1998. I retired in 1996. It took me 2 years to write 2 pages of concept of Shen. And that concept is what we are following. Darrell Bryant was at that conference, and many of my friends have moved away or passed on, but I'm still around, and that is what I do.
That's the catalyst.
That is where it's all started.
Thank you, Shiv. So the mission statement basically for Shen is basically to provide support for contemplative processes of thinking for education using both science and the findings of many enlightened beings who have spent their lives studying the nature of humankind and its relationship in the universe. The vision, Shen envisions a world where humanity lives contemplatively, with feelings of unity in diversity, a clear light, as Shiv was saying, a clear light of our underlying oneness, which is the truth of both spiritual wisdom of antiquity and science modernity. So the strategy specifically, one around this proposal that he's got, but it's also the core of Shen. But the strategy, first of all, is an awareness, to create an awareness of the benefit of contemplation for all. Specifically, in this case, we say develop contemplative processes that can easily be incorporated into educational systems around the world without being evasive or confrontational. Re-envision and redesign education to open the contemplative eyes of the human being to seek subtle truths of the existence researched by sage, seers, prophets, philosophers of antiquity, science of modernity. So the core scientific and spiritual heritage is intended to be a holistic science and system slash application coming together to benefit all humanity. And the beauty of this holistic science is to create a new ability to refer to various scriptures and develop an inter-religious unity. When you think about what Shiv was talking about, Shen started because of the division of interfaith. Convergence of science and spirituality enables the raising and transformation of human consciousness in scientific terms. So the purpose of this conference, and this is where you come in, and this specifically is where we're going to be asking you at the end. By the way, we'll ask, you do not have to comment. You're not here basically to do a presentation, but your feelings specifically with regards to how the presentations were, if you've got any questions, fantastic. And if you've got any comments or recommendations, and again, I'll be the ogre to make sure that in actual fact, everybody gets an opportunity to speak. This conference is meant for sharing the basis of the proposal with you all and seek your guidance and ideas to strengthen it prior to its publication. So Shiv kind of put it in two ways. It says 2 types of content and educations to cultivate unity and diversity. And he's given 2 quotes here. Unifying concepts exemplified by the following quote. And this is from John Muir. Rocks and water, etc., are words of God, and so are men. We all flow from one fountain, soul, the spirit. All are expressions of one love. Practices to develop executive function to live a life of purpose. This type of content is sent up. This one is from Young. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will you will call it faith. So it's with those kind of the background, this is how we step into this today. So what I'd like to do at this point is just share this video that was Jeff made us aware of, and we played it yesterday.
Tell me the one about the virus again, then I'll go to bed.
But my boy, you're growing weary, sleepy thoughts about your head.
Please, that one's my favourite. I promise just once more.
Okay, snuggle down, my boy, though I know you know full well. The story starts before then, in a world I once would dwell. It was a world of waste and wonder, of poverty and plenty, back before we understood why hindsight's 2020. You see, the people came up with companies to trade across all lands, but they swelled and got much bigger than we ever could have planned. We'd always had our wants, but now it got so quick. You could have anything you dreamed of in a day, and with a click. We noticed families had stopped talking. That's not to say they never spoke, but the meaning must have melted, and the work-life balance broke. And the children's eyes grew squarer, and every toddler had a phone. They filtered out the imperfections, but amidst the noise, they felt alone. And every day the skies grew thicker, till you couldn't see the stars. So we flew in planes to find them, while down below, we filled our cars. We'd drive around all day in circles. We'd forgotten how to run. We swapped the grass for tarmac, shrunk the parks till there were none. We filled the sea with plastic, because our waste was never capped, until each day when you went fishing you'd pull them out, already wrapped. And while we drank and smoked and gambled, our leaders taught us why. It's best to not upset the lobbies, more convenient to die. But then in 2020, a new virus came our way. The governments reacted and told us all to hide away. But while we all were hidden, amidst the fear and all the while, the people dusted off their instincts. They remembered how to smile. They started clapping to say thank you and calling up their mums. And while the car keys gathered dust, they would look forward to their runs. And with the skies less full of voyagers, the earth began to breathe, and the beaches bore new wildlife that scuttled off into the seas. Some people started dancing. Some were singing, some were baking. We'd grown so used to bad news, but some good news was in the making. And so when we found the cure, and were allowed to go outside, we all preferred the world we found to the one we'd left behind. Old habits became extinct, and they made way for the new. and every simple act of kindness was now given its due.
But why did it take a virus to bring the people back together?
Well, sometimes you've got to get sick, my boy, before you start feeling better. Now lie down and dream of tomorrow, and all the things that we can do. And who knows, if you dream hard enough, maybe some of them will come true. We now call it the Great Realization. And yes, since then there have been many. But that's the story of how it started, and why hindsight's 2020.
First of all, I'm just going to pass it over to Shiv. Shiv, of course, gave us a little bit, but Shiv's professional life is spent in the Academy of, say in academia, teaching how to build bridges across spatial gaps. Now in his retirement, he's focused on building bridges across wide chasms across the heart and the mind, diversity of humanity. For this purpose, he founded Shen. He's dedicated to researching, developing, promoting, and delivering education to globalize the mind. He recently published a book entitled The Common Ground, A Unified Basis of Existence. Life happens automatically, and breath, a vital function of life, also happens automatically. Learn to pay attention to the breath, and we will learn to make life happen. In it lies our health, our wellness. In it also lies our capacity to see the all-inclusive oneness of all existence. And with that, I'll pass it over to Shiv Tarwal. Shiv.